Good day and greetings from the Great White North. My name is Prickly Poo and welcome to day 307 of a year of change. Today we're going to maybe a little bit continue on the conversation we were having yesterday, or the tirade, whatever you want to call it. Yesterday I had mentioned how we just sort of need to keep things, prevent things from being boring, I guess, when we're doing exercise. But there's also a risk of us sort of going the other way. And I don't think there's really any risk of any of us getting to a point within the next couple of months where we're going to the gym 6 hours a day and just going insane, lifting weights and running and all the other stuff that goes along with it. But all this stuff is really brand new to us. And for some of us, just very, very, very new, myself included. Aside from the treadmill, I've been doing the treadmill for a very, very long time now. For me, anyway. It's been less than a year, but it's for quite a while. But it's walking. It's nothing really out of the ordinary. It's something that we've, pretty much all done for a very, very long time. So it's just a matter of saying, okay, I just need to go faster, and then I need to go uphill, and then I need to jog. So trying to adapt to that isn't too bad. But when we're starting out something really brand new to us, whether it's swimming or weightlifting or whatever it is that you decided to do, for me, it was the sit-up, push-up thing, which we'll get to in a second. We do run the risk of causing some problems. Not that we're going to go too far and say, well, it's just, I love it so much, I'm doing it all day, every day. So much as, well, it's boring, so I don't want to do it, or I've done too much and I don't want to do it. So basically what had happened was, I'll start with my stuff because it's the only thing I can really relate to at the moment. When I first started doing the sit-ups and push-ups and everything else, push-ups things, that's gonna just sort of put that by the wayside. I can barely do 3, but the sit-ups, I thought this isn't too bad. I'm gonna cut back to 10 and just sort of go from there and see how things go. Now the problem with that is that when I first did it, I thought this is fine. I've done 15, so cut it way back and I'll be okay. Not taking into account the fact that I haven't done a sit-up in probably 2 years. Getting up from the toilet doesn't count. Getting up at a bed doesn't count. An actual exercise-y sit-up. So what had happened was yesterday, because when I was doing my treadmill during the week, I could feel I was a little sore, but I sort of chalked that up to the treadmill. I don't know why I didn't make this connection, but I thought, it's the treadmill, so I'll just keep going and I'll be okay. And I was fine. But then last night, I decided, okay, this, I should do at least a second day and then try to figure out how the schedule is going to be for a sit-up. Could not do one. I couldn't even get through one sit-up. Laid down, everything was fine, and I got this far, and that's as far as I could go. And I really tried, really, really hard, and it's just not there. And then I felt a lot of pain in my stomach. And it's not like ulcer pain or anything like that. It's very obviously, sore muscles. And part of that comes from just not knowing what the fuck I'm doing. And obviously overdoing it the first time by how sad that is. I did 10 sit-ups and I overdid it. But again, need to cut way back. And this is what the next couple of weeks are going to be. It's just sort of tweaking it, finding out what's going to work out well for us. And gradually I can build up and I'll be okay from there. But when you haven't done something like this in months and months and months and technically years and years and years, it's brand new. You don't know what you're doing. So of course you do run the risk of hurting yourself. So when we're trying to figure all this stuff out, we need to be very, very careful because it's not really that we're doing too much. I think probably as much as we're doing it wrong. And I can't imagine that 10 sit-ups would be enough to cause damage or to cause me to be hurt or anything like that. But it could be that I did it wrong. It could just be that I'm so out of shape that, yes, 10 sit-ups, that's what's going to do it. But I think that we need to be very, very careful when we're doing this stuff. When we're first starting out, trying to tweak things and add new things and stuff like that, not that we get to a point where I'm just going to do one and leave it there. But we need to be very careful because we don't know what the fuck we're doing. We really don't. We haven't exercised in forever. We're just getting started, and it's usually very basic stuff like going for a walk or just moving around the house or doing something like that. It's not what we would really classify as exercise. And I know we're trying to do the moderate exercise thing, but generally speaking, I still think in my head anyway, that that's some sort of cardiovascular exercise where like treadmill or you go for a walk or something like that. But when we get into stuff like sit-ups and push-ups and things like that, it's a little bit different. So obviously, don't know what I'm doing. Hurt myself, but not real bad. Obviously, it's like I can still poke and punch myself, and I don't you can hear that it's just slosh, slosh, slosh. So it's not like I'm not bruised, I'm not dying, I'm not sick, I'm not anything. It's just a matter I just can't do a sit-up. I can do everything else. Everything else is fine. But if you ever have that feeling, after you've been sick, after you've had the flu for a couple of weeks, and you've just barfed out of every orifice that you possibly have, how your stomach feels and your chest feels just from all the straining, that's what it feels like. So it feels like I barfed all over the place. I am going to keep trying. Every couple of days, I'm going to try at least to do one to see, how far it's going to take to get back into that. But obviously, 15 is a little much. I think I need to pull that back a little bit so that I'd rather have it so that I'm doing like 2 or 3 every 2 or 3 days instead of 15 once a week. It's just, for me anyway, I need that structure as I'm doing stuff. But one thing, too, that I wanted to sort of bring up, where we're learning all this stuff, and this is one of the things that I've really actually enjoyed quite a bit about doing all this stuff with the food and the exercise and everything else, is that I've learned a tremendous amount of information. And some of it I've agreed with, some of the information I haven't agreed with, and we found out that we're right about some things, we found out that we're wrong about some things, and some of it is just personal preference, and some of it is stay the hell away from that because that's dangerous. But one of the things that right from the time I was a kid, I've always thought, until recently, until I started looking at the exercise thing, was the reason why it's sore, and we've all heard this, and this might be news to some of you, and it might be old news, and it might be wrong news to some of you as well. Reason why you're sore, because any time that we do any exercise, that's part of the problem. That's part of the thing that we dread, is waking up the next morning and just being sore all over. And from the time we were kids, it's always been the same thing. It's lactic acid buildup. Because as you're exercising, it produces more lactic acid, and then your body can't get rid of it, and it's that's what makes you sore. Well, it's not. It never has been. It won't be. I mean, if you want to get technical, you don't produce lactic acid. You produce something called lactate. So yes, fellas, we can lactate. Haha. Can't have anything good for yourself, can you, ladies? Anyway. We generate something called lactate, and that's generally what people are talking about when they say lactic acid. But it was always thought by me anyway, and I could be the only person thinking this, and you might all just be going, no, this isn't news, you're just stupid. But I always thought that it builds up, your body can't flush it out quickly enough, and that's what causes that soreness. But it's not. Usually any lactic acid, we're going to keep calling it that, any lactic acid that's built up in your system, your body does produce it. Well, it can't really produce lactic acid, but for the purposes of this conversation, that's what we're calling it. So your body produces it much quicker and in greater quantities when you're exercising, but that's usually really like extreme exercises. And part of the reason why, your body starts heating up and your blood flow starts improving is to flush that stuff away. So usually within an hour after you're done your workout, you're back to normal. So it's not something that's going to linger around in your system. It's gotten rid of it, it's dissipated, it's absorbed it, whatever you want to call it. I actually don't know if it says it flushes it out, so it takes it somewhere. See, don't know a fucking thing about exercise. It's great. Anyway, but you still have that soreness the next day. And usually what that is, there's a fancy name for it. It's like delayed onset muscle soreness or something, or delayed muscle soreness onset. And they're actually micro tears in the muscle fiber. And what that is basically because we're using something we haven't used in a very long time, it's very, very weak. Or for those of you that are doing bodybuilding stuff, you purposefully are doing something that's way beyond what you should be able to do. So, of course, it's weak. And it causes these little teeny, tiny tears. And that's what that soreness is. It's just the same way that you would get if you got a paper cut or if you broke a leg, which is quite different extreme, but anything like that, where there's always that soreness, there's that heat that comes off it as well. Sorry, starting to hack and cough and everything else. Not coughing yet, but look at that. Sorry. Anyway, we'll try to edit that part out. So it's all these little tears, and that's why you're sore to begin with. So that heat and the soreness and achy and everything else that sort of accompanies that, that is part of the healing process. Now, I think we should, now that we sort of have the sciencey bit, the really scientific bit out of the way, I think it's very important that we recognize that if we are to that point already, we are doing too much. Because part of what we've been trying to do is to find a really good medium. Middle ground, I should say, not a medium. We need to find a really good witch that can talk to dead people. That's what we've been searching for. We need to find some really good middle ground where we want something that's going to be effective, but we don't want something that's going to put us in a position that we're so used to, just going, I don't like it. Now I'm hurt on top of everything else. I'm bored and I'm hurt. So it's trying to find that nice spot in between where we feel, you know what, I've done something. I can tell that I've exercised today. I've broken a little bit of a sweat. Things are fine that way. The next day, you can feel it, but you're not sore. Because I think just getting to a point where if that's what we had to do, if I had to say, okay, I'm going to do 15 sit-ups every single day. No fucking way. If I had to do that every single day, after the first day, I obviously am not going to be able to do it. And as it turns out, it's been a few days now and I haven't been able to do it. So I'm going to try again today. Maybe that's what I'll do before the weekend hits and let you know how it goes. But I don't want us to get to a point where it's either, well, we're either doing nothing or we're doing way too much. And I know that we've sort of touched on this a number of times. We did it with the food. We wanted to have very small, gradual changes. And we talked about this with the exercise, that we don't want to do too much too soon because then we're just going to hate it and not want to go anywhere and do anything with it. But I think it's important that we try really hard to sort of find something that, okay, I can tell that I've worked out, for lack of a better term. I don't want to use that because that sounds really intense. And I don't think it should get to that point where we're working out. I can tell I've done some exercise. I've done some physical activity above my normal activity level. There we go. Moderate exercise is what we're looking for. So something that you can tell that you've done it, but not so much that you wouldn't be able to do it the next day. So, and I mean, this isn't going to happen this week, and maybe not next week. It's going to take a couple of weeks just to sort of tweak things back and forth and find out what you can do that's going to give you that, okay, this is my sweet spot. This is where I need to do, or where I need to do. That was dumb. This is what I need to do. This is where I need to be. That makes more sense. In order for it to be effective. And it doesn't have to be something that you're going to be losing 2 pounds a day doing. Just at this stage, something that is, number one, that we're going to enjoy doing, like we talked about yesterday. Number two, something that's going to be effective. So it's going to be different for everybody. For me, going for a walk around the neighborhood is not going to do the same thing as it would have done 6 months ago. 6 months ago, that would have been, terrific. And I would have been out of breath and I would have been sick and just, it would have been terrible. But now just going for a walk around the neighborhood, it's not effective enough to be counted, I think. And for some of you that are, well beyond what we're talking about here, that you've been doing exercise right from when we first started and you're still going to the gym, or you're going for walks, or you're going swimming, or badminton, or basketball, or clay pigeon shooting, whatever it is that you do. Shooting isn't really a sport. Anyway, whatever you're doing, no matter what your level's at. Those of you that have been exercising for a very long time are probably not watching this anyway. But you're going to know a lot more than we are, where your good spot is, where you can say, this is enough that it's effective, that I'm actually getting something out of it, but not so much that I'm going to hurt myself or be sore the next day. Eventually, we might get to that mentality where we don't mind being sore the next day. I don't mind being sore as long as I can still do what I need to do. But with the sit-up thing, I did too much because I didn't know what the hell I was doing. So I went, I'm just going to keep going until I can't go anymore. Well, no, because my body just simply is not ready for that. I'm still very, very, very fat and very, very, very out of shape. So for me just to say I'm going to start doing sit-ups every day, it was stupid. It really was. But what I think will be okay is if I find something, and it might be a weird number, I might say, you know what, I can do 6 or I can do 3. I can do something, every 2 or 3 days and gradually build that up and then increase the amount and then increase the frequency and do what I did with the treadmill. But again, starting in something brand new, it really is like starting the treadmill all over again. I don't know what I'm doing. I don't know where my, exercise level should be. any of that stuff. And that's what we're trying to do over the next couple of weeks, especially where we're adding new stuff in there. We know it should be moderate exercise, but trying to figure out where that is. I mean, because I'm not going to sit and do 10 minutes of sit-ups. That would be insane. Because one is like 10 seconds. So, no, not doing 600 sit-ups. Is that right? 6, yeah, maybe. 10, 6 per minute. And then, no, that would be 60 sit-ups for an hour. Oh, wait. 60 sit-ups in 10 minutes. Times 10. There we go. If I did it 10 times. Shut up. My math is fine. Anyway, that's just something I wanted to talk about. Just, well, number one, to let you know that the sit-up thing is set aside for the time being until I can actually do one. I'm going to try again tonight after work and see what happens. I'm going to see if I can come home and, try it again. See if I can actually do 5. I will just try with a small number. I'm not going to try 15 again because I know that that's too much, and I think 10 might be a bit too much. And especially where I'm already hurt, I'm going to try for 5. But anyway, this wasn't very focused. I intended on sort of delving a little bit more into the lactate thing. There's tons of information on it if you actually go search it, so I'm not going to put any links anywhere. I was going to actually put a link in the description to the Mayo Clinic, which is sort of my go-to for stuff like this. I think they're a trusted source, but it quickly devolves into vitamin D and vitamin B and all these other things. It's a very tiny, tiny little blurb that you can probably find on Wikipedia. So I thought, yeah, you know what? No, it'll sort of detract from everything. The main thing I just sort of want to get across for the idea for today is just really, not to obviously do too much. And even if you think, that should be enough, I think it's still better to err on the side of caution. Do less than you think that you really should be doing. And then if you find, okay, you know what, 2 days later, I'm going to try again. Now I can start building up. But again, I did a stupid thing and went, I'm going to just go to exhaustion, see how many I can do, which is still a pitiful amount. But 15 sit-ups is still literally more than I've done. I did more sit-ups this week than I did the past year. That's saying something. So the number itself doesn't matter. Pay no attention to it. It's still, actually, you know what? I've probably done more than I have in 2 or 3 years for that amount. But I'm going to keep building, going to keep figuring out where those, sweet spots are. And eventually I will find something that I can start a base on. And then gradually start building up and up and up and increase the frequency and get that to where my treadmill is now. And then hopefully combine it, not at the same time. You can't do sit-ups on a treadmill because you will smash your face into the wall. But be able to do the treadmill and then have my sit-ups and just start slowly building like a workout schedule sort of thing. That's a very long-term goal, but it's something that I think is, I'd like to carry with me beyond this year. And, I'll be able to keep improving as things go. And I'd like to have more than just, fluffy, fatty, gooey belly. I'd like to have something that I can go, all right, I can feel stuff under there. It's okay. I can do sit-ups with it. But anyway, you can't see it, but hopefully so I'm going to leave this video here for right now, because otherwise it's going to turn really, really awkward. So thank you very much for watching. If you liked it, please poke the like button for me. And in the meantime, keep yourself warm and fuzzy, and I will see you in the next video. Bye-bye.